went out to sow his seed. Every one of the Divine Master's lessons is profound and sublime down to the smallest detail. When he begins narrating the parable of the sower, he starts with a lesson of inestimable importance worth remembering. He does not say the sower has a contract with the third parties, but that he himself went out to sow. This is going to be important later. Transferring this image to the soil of the Spirit, in which so many imperatives of renewal invite workers of goodwill to the sanctifying farming of spiritual growth, we are led to realize that servants of the gospel are compelled to go out personally in order to benefit others' hearts. It is necessary to tear down the old prison of the point of view and devote ourselves to serving our neighbor. As we learn the science of extracting ourselves from the dark jail of the self, we start a journey through the great continent called everyone's interest. And in its infinite expanse, we find the land of the souls choked with thorns, filled with misery, covered with stones, or poisoned with mire, thus offering us divine opportunity to act for the good of all. It's according to this script that the divine sower staged his ministry of light, starting his heavenly mission of assistance amidst humble shepherds, then continuing it amongst the friends of the Nazarene and the scholars of Jerusalem, amongst verbose Pharisees and simple fishermen, the righteous and the unrighteous, the rich and the poor, the sick in body and soul, and the old and young, women and children. As we have said, the sower from heaven left his grandeur and came to us to spread the light of revelation and to increase our vision and discernment. And even though he could have been replaced by thousands of messengers if he had wanted to, he humbled himself so that he could be exalted. And he put himself in darkness so that our light might shine. Therefore, let us leave our inhibitions behind and learn with the Master to go out to sow. Let's close our eyes. Let's take a deep breath. And leave the outside world behind. And try to leave our worries, our stresses outside the door, so that for this one small hour a week, we can give ourselves the gift of self-reflection. We can give ourselves the gift of being comforted by Jesus' teachings and words through the superior spirits. With that in mind, we thank our Father for one more day, for so many more opportunities to learn throughout the day today. We thank our Master Jesus, who brought us everything we need to know. And we thank the superior spirits and Master Kardec for actually explaining everything that Jesus brought to us. May today's meeting be simple in content, but may it touch our hearts. May it cause us to reflect. May it comfort us. So be it. Is the app working for those who are using the app? Yeah? Okay. Okay, we are using a new Microsoft translating app. So we're testing it today. Okay, so today's talk is based on the 7th and last chapter of this book, Health of Family Relationships. And it's also the 20th and last lesson of an online course with the same name from the same book, and they are by Alírio de Cerqueira Filho. Unfortunately for this one in English, YouTube doesn't even have the option of auto-generated subtitles. I don't know why. But I'm happy to translate to you that, well, you have a partner who can do it. I'm happy to translate to you, Attila, if you want. Because this is like just barely 45 minutes, but the whole thing is an hour and a half. So there's a whole lot more detail, both in the chapter and in the last lesson of the course. So it's a 20 lesson course, 30 hours. It took me a couple months because I did it driving. You can either do it on YouTube or they also have a playlist on Spotify. Only problem is that if your Spotify is not paid, it's not going to play in the right order. So it might be annoying. Then I would recommend YouTube. But I highly, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it for couples, for families with children, for anybody who doesn't have children, but we all have parents. It's very, very helpful. The contents are fabulous. I highly recommend. It made a huge difference to me, and the proof is that I'm here to talk about it, to talk about just one of the 20 lessons. And this parable touched me like really, really, really deeply, like to the point that I've listened to it 4 times already, and it has, for me personally, already caused quite a few changes in my own home and in myself. So I decided to share, because everything that is good is to be shared, in my humble opinion. So first we're gonna see a few questions, like those of you who know me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Renata, whatever, I'll answer. I like to start with some questions so that we can think about it. So I like to start reflecting, then we see the content, and then we go back to the reflection to see if we would answer any of those questions differently. Make sense? Yeah? So let's do that. So first, a few questions. For now, we are just going to answer in our minds. I'm going to give everybody a few seconds after each question so you can think about the answer in your mind. So we're not looking for any answers out loud now. When we go back to them at the end, then we can all share. We don't have to, but we can share. Okay, so no? Don't want to do it? Please do it? Yeah, go out. Yeah. Okay, so first question. What do I feel it is my role in my relationships? Family, friends, work, Spiritist center. What role do I play? What's my relevance? What's my importance in my relationships? Do I ever feel the need to change other people? Like my partner, my spouse, my children, my parents, my friends, when I see that they are taking a path that will lead to pain and suffering. You know, like you look at it and you're like, that's not gonna work. That's gonna end up in disaster. Do I ever feel the need to change them because I know what they're doing is not going to end well? Does seeing the people close to me making mistakes or suffering cause me anxiety or anguish? Do I get annoyed when I try to help and the other person or people don't listen to me? I'm not even gonna look around because I know I'm gonna see this or this. So I'll wait for them back in the end. And last, have I ever felt like giving up on a person who is important to me because I thought they are hopeless? It's like I'm done with you, like I can't anymore. So have I ever felt like giving up on somebody important because there's nothing else I can do? I'm done.
Is it supposed to be yes to all the questions?
Well, it is whatever it is right now. Let's see if we change our minds after we see this parable. So one thing that is very important is, I think everybody has heard the expression that Jesus says, words of eternal life. What does that mean? It means his words will never lose meaning. And we, as humanity evolves in intelligence and moral, we become able to understand more and more in depth what he truly meant by his words. Think of an onion. Those parables are like onions. They have layers. And the more you take layers, the closer you get to the center, to the core, to the real meaning. Not only that, most parables can be interpreted. There is a specific word that we say exegesis, or in Portuguese, exegese. An exegesis is a deep analysis of a passage of the Bible or religious text in general. So this deep analysis or exegesis can also be done for different aspects of life. You will see the same parable being interpreted relating to relationships or family, or to my role as a Spiritist, or anything like that. So again, another characteristic of Jesus' words of eternal life. Okay? So today, we're going to look at the parable of the sower, interpreted, analyzed from the point of view of relationships. I'm going to focus more on family, because family is the smallest cell of society. And it's usually where we get our biggest challenges. Because it's easy to get rid of friends, bosses, or whatever, but it's not easy to get rid of family. So they are the smallest laboratory we have to develop, to evolve, to practice our virtues with. Make sense? Okay. If anything I say doesn't make sense, or if you don't know the translation, or it sounds weird, please stop me, okay? The fight with the glasses is eternal. Okay, so this parable is in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 3 to 9. So we're going to see the whole parable. You're going to see that there are some bolded, underlined words. Those are symbols that we're going to talk about. Those are symbols that we're going to analyze. So pay attention to those. And he told them many things in parables, saying, Behold, the sower went out to sow, just like the title of the text we read. And as he sowed, some seeds fell beside the road, and the birds came and ate them up. Others fell on the rocky places, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up immediately, because they had no depth of soil. But after the sun rose, they were scorched, burned, and because they had no root, they withered away. so they dried up. Others fell among the thorns, and the thorns came up and choked them out. Does everybody know choked? Yeah. But others fell on the good soil and yielded a crop, some 100, some 60, some 30 times as much. The one who has ears, let him hear. So far, so good? So just a few words. It's a pretty short parable, but it has a very practical aspect that invites us to apply this to our own lives. So again, we're looking at all the bolded, and we're going to interpret them not literally, because it absolutely doesn't make sense. Like, what kind of sower just like throws seeds away on beside the road, thorns, rocks? It doesn't make sense. Like, a normal sower wouldn't do that. So we already know this is not a normal sower. We're not talking about the actual person who has the profession of sowing seeds. And again, this is 2,000 years ago, right? Today we have machinery for that. So, why would the sower do that? First of all, because he's not a regular sower, right? He's a special sower. If the sower is throwing the seeds in all those places, do you guys think the sower is worried about the harvest? If I'm worried about the harvest, am I going to throw seeds on rocks? So, first important clue for us to understand about the sower. The sower is not the harvester. The sower's job is to sow, not to harvest. Because sometimes we want to do it all, right? We want to see beginning to end, we want to do it all. But the sower's job is not to harvest, it's just to sow. So, in that case, we're going to see the other symbols, and this is going to make more sense, because we're thinking, what? What's the point? What's the reward you get of doing a job that you don't see the result for? As we see the other symbols, it's going to make sense. So, talking about the symbols, the sower. Who do you think the sower is? Because Jesus uses, sometimes the symbols are fairly consistent. Usually a lord or a farmer or a man is talking about God. Sometimes it's talking about like man, humanity, every human being. What about the sower? What do you think the sower is a symbol for? Who is the sower?
Jesus.
In the text, yes. And that's good, Attila. Attila's paying attention. However, like I said, words of eternal life, here we're bringing it to our lives.
Could it be us?
But awesome.
Could it be us? The things that we do and
Absolutely. We are the sowers. Okay? Again, if we analyze from this point of view of families and relationships, depending on how you do the exegesis, it could be Jesus or God, depending on the angle you're looking at, okay? So, we are the sowers. Now, when I think about myself, am I that distracted that I would just throw seeds everywhere? It might make more sense when we understand what the seeds are symbols for. So let's keep going. But of course, I'm going to throw you off. We're not going to see what the seeds are. We're first going to see the soils. So what do you think the soils are?
The souls,
people,
You're on the right path.
their hearts.
Yes.
The relations.
More specifically, people's profiles. it's a description of a person's profile. Like the person's characteristic. We're gonna look at the person as the soil. So we're gonna look at a person as having a beside the road profile. It's like a certain type of person. I'm gonna give you more details about each one later, okay? So now we're just going through the general, and then we're gonna go into detail. I'm all over the place, but I promise in the end, it's gonna come together.
You got me at the profiling. I like it.
Right? So it's people's profiles. So we have beside the road, Jesus talks about 6 different profiles, right? So again, we'll talk about what each one means, but for now, let's see what they are, and then we're gonna see what are the seeds, and then we're gonna go into details for everything. So there's beside the road, there's rocky places, there's thorns, and then there's good soil, and Jesus mentions 3 different types of good soils. The soil that produces at 30, 60, or 100 times whatever we sow in that soil. Okay? So let's call it 4 to 6 different profiles. Okay? The good soil is basically the same profile, but let's just think of fertile land. Some land will give more crops, some land will give less crops. And we just said that these are people's profiles. So some people are capable of producing more, some people will get there eventually. Okay? So far so good? Yeah? Haven't lost anybody? Okay. All right. So now, what are the seeds? What do you think the seeds are? So we are the sowers. The soils are profiles of people, types of people. What do you think are the seeds?
Emotions,
Connection,
Virtues.
examples,
impacts.
Okay, everybody's on the right path here. So the seeds are love. And the feelings that come from love. Virtues. So everybody is right. So, and as I say, the seeds of love, I keep thinking tears for fears for those who are old enough. So some examples of those virtues, of those seeds of love that we can sow in all of our relationships as the sowers. Love, surrender. In what sense surrender?
Openness.
Yeah. Or sometimes thinking like giving up something for someone else's benefit. If we talk about relationships and family, that is a very common thing for parents to do for their children. Yes, service.
Submission.
Yeah, submission in the sense of it's better that way. Not I give up, but it's the right way. Meekness, right? Meekness is not weakness, as they say in English. Humbleness, tolerance, compassion, solidarity, perseverance, empathy. These are all seeds of love that we can all sow, and many other more. These are just some examples. Does that make sense? So far, so good? Okay, so now let's try and bring it together. Let's try, to understand it better, let's focus on the family. And family, all the family relationships. Partner, life partners, spouses, children, siblings, parents, anybody in our family, any relationship, vertical or horizontal. Do you know what are vertical and horizontal relationships in families? Yeah? No? So horizontal is like when we are at the same level. For example, spouses, they are supposed to be a horizontal relationship because they're supposed to be on the same levels. Or siblings, for example. Vertical, parents and their children is a vertical relationship. Parents are responsible for their children. Make sense now? Yeah? Okay. So we're gonna try and focus on the family. But everything that we talk about the family is gonna be the same thing for society in general. For friendships, for work relationships. It's just like I said, we can get rid of the other ones easier than the family. Even though a lot of us moved to Canada and left the family behind. But then the family comes visit, right now, Mom? We leave the family, but the family comes. Okay, so analyzing in the family context. So, now if the sower doesn't harvest, what is the sower's reward? Who wants to work and not see the result of their work?
The reward's in the action.
Exactly. The reward is absolutely in the action. Because what's the meaning of the work of the sower?
Give an opportunity.
Carrie?
It's all part of it, but it's something bigger than that we don't think about. So what is the role of the person who is already aware of the gospel of Jesus, who is awakened to a spiritual life? So let's suppose we are all sowers. We are all here in the Spiritist Center on a rainy Sunday morning. So let's think that we have all awakened to our spiritual life, right? We all know we are immortal spirits. We all understand the idea of reincarnation. We're all on board with that, right? So what is the role of a person who already understands the truth, already understands what the divine laws mean?
To live by that virtue, because you by now you have that awareness. So if you're not implementing it, then
You are 100% right, but it goes beyond.
spread.
You know the whole I'm sorry, I'm going to be very cheesy. And I'm going to talk about Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man's uncle says, with great power comes great responsibility. That's what we have. We have the power of this knowledge. We have the power that we are awakened already. And with that comes responsibility. And what's that responsibility? To sow the seeds in order to collaborate with God.
With good.
Oh, sorry, it was God.
Good.
Good God.
Good God, yeah, good God. Okay, so this is our role. So when I'm helping God, I don't need to worry about the results because God knows everything. God knows of all of our potential. So we don't need to worry. We can relax. As long as we are sowing good seeds, we can relax because God knows of our potential. So our reward is the work itself because we know, we are aware of the spiritual life. So just as curiosity, so from Latin, com, with, laborate, to work, labor laws, right? So to work with God, so to collaborate with God is to work with God. You know when you're in school and you are the first one to learn a certain subject and the teacher asks you to help your peers? That's the idea. We already got that lesson, so our job is to help our peers. And let's start where? Closest to us, our family. Doesn't it make sense? I'm not saying it's easy, I'm saying it makes sense. Let's make it clear. However, we sow. but the harvest is up to the owner of the soil. Remember, the soils are people's profiles, and we're gonna see what each one is. And this is gonna make even more sense when we say the harvest depends on the owner of the soil. It's gonna make even more sense when we see what each profile is, okay? Our role, our job is to sow, not to harvest.
What does it mean though?
It means that when you're sowing seeds of love, like you're trying to teach or to show or to exemplify something to somebody, and you want that person to learn right away, and that's the harvest. It's like, I think the easiest example is children. So I'm telling my child that cheating on a test is wrong, and my child still does it. That's gonna make me very angry, because I already sowed the seed of love. I already told you right from wrong, but then you go and you do it wrong. In that case, I am worried about the harvest, not the sowing.
Then it's not love, it's controlling.
How many of us still confuse both? And it's not like all the time. Sometimes we know the difference, but sometimes we still confuse. And many times it depends on the person, right? Depending on the relationship we have with a certain person, we're gonna demand more or less of a certain person. Like parents usually demand more from their children than they demand from their own parents. Okay? Everything is gonna make more and more sense as we go.
From themselves, right? We
Yes.
demand more from our children than we demand from ourselves.
Yes.
We ask them to do stuff that we usually don't do it. So
And we think we're sowing seeds of love, but that's not it. We confuse. A lot of times we think those are seeds of love, but they are not. And that's the key point. It's knowing which one is which. It's not something that we're gonna know right away. It's a process. It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take us all the trouble of analyzing situation by situation. And it's gonna happen over a big span of time and throughout several lives. Okay? So, zero anxiety. Zero anxiety. Just having the knowledge is already a great step forward. Because you can't fix what you don't know, right? So, knowing is the first step. So, what are examples of these seeds? Because the theory is beautiful, but like, give me something I can work with, right? So, an example, a good word to a son, daughter, spouse, parent. But what is a good word? By good word, do I mean a lecture? Do I mean a moral lesson from above? Who here likes a lecture? Uma lição de moral em português.
I don't think anyone would like
Raise
that.
your hand. Exactly. But isn't that what we do sometimes? We come from a very positive intention. Our intention is to help. So the intention is good. But we're going in the wrong direction because it's not going to work. Because we ourselves don't like it. What makes us think that the other person will appreciate it? Right? So it's not a lecture. It's not like moral lesson from a higher ground. Nobody likes that. So it's, for example, a shared experience. And this is what I'm saying. It's hard to differentiate. There's a difference between telling Attila something that happened to me when I was his age and telling him, when I was your age, I didn't do what you do. There's a difference. There's like Attila, once when I was your age, like this happened to me, and what I learned from it is that it's better to do, like, for me, it was better to do like that. I don't want to impose my learned lesson on him either. It's very different from saying, if you should have done like me, because when I was your age, this happened, this is what I did. If you do it, it's gonna work. They sound very similar, but they are not the same. So a good word is something positive. It's not something that will put the person who is speaking here and the person who is listening here. Right? So it's not I'm better than you, I have more experience than you, I have more knowledge, I have more moral values than you, so you listen to me right now. It's I have something to share. It's up to you if it helps you or not. It's up to you if it makes a difference to you or not.
I wonder if what you're getting at, and maybe this will come out in some of the other examples, is that these seeds of love, according to this theory, do they carry any expectation with them when we offer?
The expectation is the harvest.
But that's what I mean. So in that case, would the answer be, if it's really just offered as loving, there's zero expectation that comes along.
Exactly, exactly. That's what sowing the seeds of love is. The zero expectation. Exactly. And that's why it's not easy. Because we are pre-programmed to expect. And this is why it's a work along the span of a lot of time.
But would it be a zero expectation on having a reward because you're sowing something, or a zero expectation of the person not necessarily listen to you, but do what will be the best to the person? Because
That's
they are
up
two
to them.
No, but I mean, I think it's two different things, right? Maybe you what you should do is like sowing the love, or do not necessarily expecting something back to you as a reward, like
Not even to you, not even to you, to the person. The zero expectation is, the expectation is to sow the seed. That's where it stops. And that's what's hard for us. Because we have a tendency to want to control the outcome. To want to see at least a little bit of result there. Right?
I think the expectation is for us to keep doing it, regardless. Like, you gotta walk the walk, you follow Jesus' path, and you keep sowing. Not the expectation towards someone else.
Yeah.
That's it, and that's what is difficult.
Spoiler alert for the end, but that's exactly what it is. And that's exactly why it's not easy. Okay? But I didn't promise anything easy today.
And as a parent, don't you want to, for example, you need to correct, but tell your child what is wrong and right. Like, it's not someone else's child, it's your child, so you also need to check the results.
Yes, but when we talk about children specifically, we need also to understand that there are phases of development. So according to their age, there will be different ways that you're gonna guide your children. So here, we're talking like this way, the idea, sowing the seeds of love, it's any age regardless. But we cannot confuse sowing a seed of love with letting a 3-year-old run wild. It's completely different because mental, developmental age is completely different. And I know it's merchandise and I don't get anything from it, but either the book or the course that is free, I would highly recommend for all parents because it teaches us exactly what to do at each phase, each stage of their development within the body for this incarnation, let's say. It helps a lot. For you to have an idea, it's helping me with my adult children, which at this point I can't control anymore, even if I want to, right? So, but it helps. It helps take away that stress of expecting and judging yourself as a parent. I'm teaching, but they're not learning. I'm a horrible parent. I'm a bad parent. Because we misunderstand the mission. The mission is to sow mainly with adult children, older teenagers and adult children. The mission is to sow, not to harvest. If we sow properly, depending on their profile, that's what's gonna happen after. But it depends on them, not on us. Did I answer? Yeah. Okay.
And also think that a child is not a blank slate, right? Like they are also immortal spirits. Like you can have 7 children and you can raise them pretty similar and you will see that they are completely different. So it will get to each one of them very different.
Exactly. This is not their first life. This is not their first rodeo. And the Spirit Books explains that teenage years, between 13 and 15, that's when all the characteristics, all the tendencies from previous incarnations starts to come to the surface, right? And that's where we go like, oh, what happened to my kind, beautiful child? It's all of that is coming back to the surface, right? So we need to remember they are immortal spirits. This is not their first rodeo. They are dressed as our kids right now. And that's something else that will help us, is to understand, is to reflect on the fact that my children are not mine. They are God's children. God trusted me to take care of them for now, for this incarnation, right? But they are not mine, they're not a possession. They don't have to be what I wasn't. They don't have to have the profession that I wasn't able to go to university for, right? A lot of times parents try to live through their kids. That's not going to work for either one of them. I think we've all seen that. So they are immortal spirits. They are not our children. They're temporarily with us.
And that's
But
not
they
the
are-
first time.
But they are our
have a
brothers
relationship.
and sisters in humanity,
I
right?
think the relationship between we being the parents with our kids maybe is the most hardest relationship to put this on, like to do what we are expecting to do, but when it becomes with the vertical relationship, it's hard also, but it's at the same time makes more sense, because if you have like a very difficult relationship with your parent, bring you sadness sometimes, but you can do what you can, I forgot the word again, soil the seed,
Soil, yeah.
soil the seed,
So.
that you can sow the seed, and bring you peace of mind because you are doing what you know, what you know that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But doesn't make
But some people who don't have their own kids focus on their parents and they want to change their parents because at this point they know better than their parents.
yes, yeah. So maybe that's the point. But I think maybe it's not fair to say that it's easier. But I feel in my case, I feel that it's easier. You do that when you think about your parents, because definitely I can do what is on me to do. Seal the love. Soil the love, and if my parents don't do what I expecting them to do, bring me sadness, but at the same time I have peace of mind because I did what I was supposed to do. I'm not responsible for what he's doing, what I am doing. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but your parents are immortal spirits exactly like
we are
our
too.
parents are immortal spirits exactly like our children. The problem is that we have the illusion that we can control our children, which we very well know we can't, because you teach them and they go out and they do the exact opposite. And then the neighbors post on Facebook. And they say, the parents of this child should be ashamed. That's not what I taught them. Okay, so prayer is another seed of love we can sow. We can and should, anytime, any moment. You remember the question, have you ever felt like giving up on a person? A prayer. Leon Denis explains in one of his books that every good word, every prayer, every good thought directed at a person, we're going to see the profiles. Even if that person is not ready to receive that, it's like a little dot of light that is going to be around the spirit of the person. Let's use heart instead of spirit. It's going to be close to the person's heart. If the person is not ready, that dot of light will just be there, around, waiting for it. Years, centuries. Doesn't matter how long, it's still going to be there. One prayer that I do today, it's still going to be there. The second they are ready to become good soil, spoil alert, they will receive all of that at once. It's going to flood into their hearts. So every seed of love we sow is never wasted. This is why the sower doesn't care about throwing them beside the road, in the rocks, or in the thorns, because the sower knows those seeds will never expire. They will never get lost. They will be there waiting. They're like a fertilizer. They don't make the seed sprout a plant, but the moment the seed is ready to sprout, the fertilizer will help. Make sense, the analogy? Okay. And finally, offer living examples. Let's go back to teenage children, which I think are a big challenge. When a parent is taking like strong medication, like sedatives or anything like that, and they tell their kids they can't smoke cannabis, how much strength does that statement have? When a parent who needs to drink whatever, when they are angry or something, when a parent who needs alcohol or any other legal drug to calm down, tells their kids, don't use drugs or don't drink when they are doing it. And I'm not here to judge person by person, like that's not my point. My point is living examples will be only as strong as we stay faithful to the truth. Otherwise, they become hypocrisy. They become do as I say, not as I do. And that's up to each person to think about. All right. So, this is what encourages the sower to sow, knowing that the job is only to sow. That's what encourages me. My job is only to sow, because I know that the seeds will be there. Even if they don't use the seeds now, even if the seeds don't sprout into production, into a crop, I know they're going to be there. So I know I'm not wasting my time. I know I'm not wasting my energy. So that really makes me want to go and sow more and more. So the seeds will always invite the owner of the soil to do the same, to sow seeds themselves. And the seeds are imperishable. They have no expiry date. Days, months, years, centuries, thousands of years. They're going to be there whenever that person is ready. They are going to work as a fertilizer when they're ready to sprout. Now, finally, let's see the profiles. So what is the beside the road type of person? It's the person who is still superficial in relation to life. YOLO, you won't live once. Live like there's no tomorrow, right? James Dean had a sentence that said, live fast, die young, have a good looking corpse. Yes, that's like extreme, right? That is like the top of superficiality, of I have to enjoy life, that desperation. So that's the beside the road kind of person. They live in the world and for the world. A person who lives spiritually, we live in the world, we're incarnated. We need to eat, we need to drive, we live in Canada, we need a shovel, right? So we have our needs. So we live in the world, and it's important to understand we live in the world. But a person who lives spiritually doesn't live for the world. We live for our own moral evolution. We live in order to become better people. That's gonna better our family, our society, and the whole planet. But the beside the road lives for the world. Fun, 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 fun. They are neither good nor bad. They are still at the surface. They haven't awakened their conscience to the truth, and the truth meaning the divine laws. The seeds fall there, but they can't sprout because there's no soil at the moment. Because these are profiles of people, but nobody's stuck there, right? Let's remember that this incarnation is a picture in eternity. We have eternity. So they're not there at the moment, but we keep sowing, and we keep sowing, because the seeds don't expire. Profile rocky places. People who initially become excited with the possibility of evolving, progressing, but lose heart fast. Oh, this is too much work. I'll leave it for the next life. I've done enough for this one. They already know the truth, but they don't want to commit to it. Because again, it's a lot of work. They have already started to awaken their conscience, but there isn't much soil. So the seeds grow fast, but without roots. And they are soon scorched or burned, right? In the parable, Jesus explained that, the seeds fall, plant comes up fast, the sun comes, and the plant just withers. Okay, it's the person who is super excited, and all of a sudden they disappear, and you're like, wow, where did they go? Thorns. People who suffocate the seeds, according to the parable, of love with dislove. And it's in italics because, yes, it is a made-up word, because there's a big difference between hate and lack of love. Okay? So the seeds, they suffocate the seeds of love with dislove, with pride, selfishness, vanity, etc. It's like those hardened people, right? It's those people who still feel, even if it's subconsciously, they still feel pleasure in revenge. They still feel pleasure in seeing somebody they don't like in a bad situation. They cultivate this love as if life weren't a divine gift for their own evolution. A lot of times it's people who believe you only live once, but instead of being superficial and having fun, they're bitter, right? Because the people in this profile try to bury the truth within them, they usually go down the path of pain and sometimes suffering, which will later help transform them. Remember when we were talking about the beside the road that we said that's how they are at the moment? All three profiles are at the moment. Because we will all get there. Right? And as we all get anxious to try and classify everybody in our family within the profiles, let's just remember, it's temporary. Okay? And again, our job is not to change the beside the road into good soil. Our job is to sow the seed. That's it. Sow the seed. Good soil. So people who are already searching for a meaning for their own lives, who see life as a divine gift for their own evolution. People who are ready to learn, ready to make the effort. They search for the truth that will set them free. They will produce according to their possibilities. So it's people who are already awakened to the truth, but not everybody has the same capacity of production. Some will produce at 30. So it's somebody who already started the process of fertilizing their own soil. They've been in the other profiles, and due to the pain they've gone through, they decided to accept God's love and started to produce love within themselves. It's the beginner, right? But who is already awake and who is not just giving up easily like the rocky places. Those who produce at 60 is the profile of a person who has a better production. They've been awake for longer and use the truth to transform their lives for the better. They understand the true meaning of life and try to live it with quality. So a lot of the good people we see around there are at 60. And people who produce at 100. So those people are faithful to the truth. Their lives are full of meaning and excellent in quality. They use all the resources to live as the essential being that they are, in communion with God. So here we're talking St. Francis of Assisi, we're talking maybe Gandhi, maybe Mother Teresa. We're talking people who have reached the highest level they can on a planet of trials and atonements. It's like the best you can get for the level we are at right now. And they are ready to move on to the next level, to a planet of regeneration. And by the way, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, in the description of the planets of regeneration still have evil. It's just not predominant. So probably they probably still have the beside the road and the rocky places profile. They probably don't have the thorn profile anymore, kind of person, right? So that's described in the classification of the worlds in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 3, if memory serves.
Does this theory suggest that people are in silos, like one-dimensional?
No, not necessarily. Usually these people who are at 100, they end up reincarnating to help us with our own evolution on the mission.
And I mean, like, I guess more in a general sense, people who are thorny, people who are rocky, people who are good at various different levels, will they only be expressed as far as this theory in one profile?
No, because I keep doing like this, but the thing is, these are just metaphors, ideas to represent. Even within each profile, you can have a big range because we're all unique.
Yeah.
Those profiles just help us understand what our role is. There are all those types of people in our families. But again, regardless of the profile of the person, our role is to sow the seed of love. Each profile will harvest when they're ready, at their own speed. And even the good soil, each person will produce at their own capacity, right? Even if you're good soil, you don't have to be at 30. So these are just general examples. You can be at 10, you can be at 1. We'll all expand our capacity as time goes by.
No, that's fair. And because the other thing I thought is just from a sense of the sower and the possibilities, even if you think somebody or believe or they're just a thorn and they're completely thorny and there's no benefit, they could have a very small part of them that has actually some good soil in a very unique area.
Yeah, even if they are only thorn,
yeah,
our role is to sow. The seed is imperishable. The seed will not die. We don't have to worry.
And but you just never even know. You never know if that
No,
might be
we
the
don't.
one thing that just
No, we
happens to
don't,
hold.
because each person can completely change their profile. The biggest mistake we can make is to think that we are gonna change someone else's profile.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake, and that's where we get frustrated. We're over the time, so we won't have time to go back to the questions. But what frustrates us, what makes us want to give up on a person, it's because we first come from a position of omnipotence, where we think we're almighty. And that person has to do the way I want them to do because I know it's better. You could be right, it could be better. But if that person is in a profile that they're not ready for that seed yet, it's not gonna happen. And then we move from omnipotence to being overbearing. We wanna force it down their throat. And when it doesn't work, we feel powerless and we're like, I give up on you, I'm done. There's nothing else I can do. Even though if we get to that feeling, there is. We can still pray. We can still send good thoughts. We can still give examples with our own behavior and lives, right?
Yeah.
But changing is up to each person.
And I also think the other mistake is thinking about ourselves as the sower and not the soil, like how many people sow on us.
Yeah, because
too.
because we are soils too.
Yeah.
The thing is, we only want to sow at good soil. We want our whole family to be producing at 100. Can I please have, 5 St. Francis of Assisi at home? We're probably, I can't state, but we are probably not at 100 ourselves. Why do we demand that others be? Right? So like I said, I knew this was going to happen, but the idea today is to give food for thought. Right? The idea is food for thought. What is my profile? Where am I? Am I worrying too much about other people's profile instead of worrying about sowing the seeds of love that I can? I can't change anybody, but I can sow seeds of love. Any day, any time.
So one question, would be letting the people be who they are also a type of soul, like allowing them to be who they are and face the consequences?
Yes. Oh, they have to. Everybody has to face their consequences. But there's a difference between indifference and compassion, right? And pity. Pity, you sit down and you cry with them and do nothing. Indifference, it's like, oh, whatever, it's their problem. Like, that person, whatever. Compassion is, even if they don't want to go in near you. This goes with the love your enemies that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Even if they don't want to be anywhere near you, can still pray for them. You can still send good thoughts. You can still send good vibes. You can still give an example with the way you live your life. So leaving them to bear the consequences doesn't mean indifference. As long as we know that, yeah. Did I answer?
And actually and I'm sorry, I know we're really
No,
over
no
time.
worries.
Just building on both what Alice and Juliana said, because of this idea of we're as much the soil as we are the sower and the process it plays itself out. Is it possible that this idea of suggesting it's a responsibility on us can place that expectation that puts the very pressure? And the other word that you used on the section when you were talking about the seeds is that we're invited to offer it. But I find that the necessary push, impulse that comes with an invitation is different than a responsibility. And so when we offer it freely, regardless of what may or may not happen. And we offer it possibly, but like you said, we just let them be, but we also let ourselves be and let it play out as it will, knowing God has it all looked after anyway.
Again, the difference between compassion and indifference. And how do you know? By the feeling it brings you. If thinking that it's a responsibility brings you the feeling of it's heavy, if it brings you the feeling of anxiety, then we're not doing it right.
Okay.
We're not quite there yet. Just because it's an invitation doesn't mean that it isn't a responsibility as well. Because responsibility here is not responsibility of you have to do or there is a consequence. It's responsibility of moral duty. The moral duty that the gospel according to Spiritism talks about.
Mm.
It's like the fact that I know that this is right and this is the best. It's still a responsibility, but it doesn't weigh on me. So if I have a feeling that it's heavy, that the burden is heavy, like Jesus said, right? If the burden is heavy, I need to rethink, reanalyze, because it's not supposed to be. It's quite the opposite. It's supposed to be that feeling of inner peace, of I am doing the most and the best I can, which is sowing the best seeds I can. Which, by the way, we can only sow our own seeds. So in order to sow seeds, we need to be in the good soil, or we won't be producing any seeds. We might be offering thorns and rocks and beside the road as well. So in order to sow those seeds, we ourselves need to be in the good soil, even if we're producing at one. Doesn't matter. But the only seeds we can sow are the ones we produce, right? The prayer, the energy I can offer is the one I produce.
I think it just popped to my mind like a sentence from Chico Xavier that summarizes that. It's just like to others, I give the right to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
To myself, I bring the obligation to be better.
Yeah, he uses obligation, but
The duty.
the duty.
The duty.
But moral duty, not the duty that makes you feel heavy, not the duty that weighs on you. It's a delicate balance.
Very.
And John, in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, he records that Jesus says, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. By this, everyone you know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. So Jesus didn't ask us to change one another. Again, words of eternal life. 2,000 years ago, he already said, love one another. He didn't say change one another, almost. He didn't say make one another better. He said love one another. Right? Sometimes we take on ourselves responsibilities that aren't ours. Okay? Alright, so let's do a final prayer because
Sonia already.
Sonia already poked her head here like you guys.
Reminded us.
Kids are going insane. Okay. So let's close our eyes. We thank you, Master Jesus. We thank you, spiritual guides of our Spiritist Center. We thank all the superior spirits who do their best to guide us, to show us the path, to put us back on the road that Jesus opened 2,000 years ago. May we all remember to love one another as immortal spirits. May we all remember to have compassion towards all our brothers and sisters in humanity. May we have the opportunity to reflect on the words of Jesus. May we have the opportunity to study more, learn more, and expand for our own personal benefit, for our own evolution, so that one day in the future, we will also produce crops at 100. May we have a blessed and productive week. So be it. Thank you. Now we're going for the fast.